Welcome to the video on are you missing this carnivore diet essential nutrient. So in this video, we're gonna talk about our ancestral alignment. We're gonna talk about this nutrient that I'm building you up towards because I think it's really critical to think about. And we're going to talk about the ancestral appropriateness of it. We're gonna talk about the spectrum. We're gonna talk about the demonization as well as sort of the mechanisms of what it does. And I'm gonna give you a lot of points. So let's just jump right into it. So as you know on this channel, if you follow my videos, I'm big on ancestral alignment, along just being consistent with the way we evolved as human beings, as Homo sapiens. One of the biggest things we did was we evolved outside, and outside you get full spectrum light. This is a key essential nutrient. You cannot make light and what light gives you within the body. You get key nutrients from light. Your whole body clock runs on light, and there's quite a bit of evidence out there that suggests that your long-term health and vitality is directly linked to the amount of light you're getting. And it's like anything, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, but human beings are not designed to live without light. And what we see is when people are deprived of light for periods of time, they develop nutrient deficiencies, not just vitamin D. They also experience a slew of other issues that are quite serious. Natural light is a key, powerful nutrient for the earth. And in this video, we're gonna talk about why it's so important and what are some of the benefits. So before we jump into that, I wanna talk about the sun. So the sun is classified by, I think it's by NASA. There's an organization within NASA that classifies stars as a yellow star. But actually the intensity of spectrum light within the sun that's most intense is green. But when you look at the spectrum of lights in what's coming from the sun, you're gonna see ultraviolet, which is what we've kind of heard of from our dermatologists and from everyone who's afraid of going outside and getting sunlight, as these spectrums of light that are kind of before the spectrum that's visible to human eyes. And then you see red and near infrared and far infrared. And these are on the other end of the spectrum of light. The sun provides us with a whole spectrum of all these different wavelengths and many more that are not visible to the human eye, and in different intensities at different times of the day. People think that the sun is yellow because when you look at it in the sunrise or in the sunset, a lot of the short wavelength spectrums are scattered and you get largely yellow colored light, yellow and red hues that come through visibly. But what's interesting is the sun provides a lot of energy and a lot of light for all life on the planet, including human beings. So before we transition into ultraviolet light, I want to talk about vitamin D, because everyone talks about vitamin D and a lot of people believe that you can get vitamin D from your diet, and your diet can be supplemented for vitamin D and that's sufficient. But what we find is that roughly about 10% of your vitamin D production in your body comes from diet. There are not a lot of natural foods in the environment that produce vitamin D for human beings. And supplementation, there's always a question of the bioavailability and how much you're actually absorbing. The majority of your vitamin D is actually produced by the human body by a reaction of ultraviolet B radiation hitting the skin, creating an organic compound called cholecalciferol, which is then converted from the liver into another compound, which is converted from that through your kidneys into the most bioavailable active form of vitamin D3, calcitriol, which is what your body uses. Vitamin D3 is so important to your body that it's actually not even really classified as a vitamin. It's actually classified as a pro-hormone. Nearly every cell in your body has a receptor that responds to vitamin D, and it plays a key role in your blood calcium concentration levels. So it's critical. It's not just one vitamin that serves one function that affects certain things. It's basically a precursor to a lot of your hormones, and it also, for almost all the cells in your body, you have a receptor for it. So it's critical, and it's tied directly to immune function and to a lot of your hormones and a whole slew of other things. So now we know that vitamin D is largely produced by UVB and the reaction it has on your skin, and then your body converting it through the liver and the kidney into a very bioavailable form, which is critical for blood calcium concentration, for immune function, and also for triggering a lot of the mechanisms within your cells, pretty much every cell in your body, and being a pro-hormone, let's talk about the vilification, if we will, of ultraviolet light. So dermatologists are skin doctors, and rightfully so, and probably fairly, they have encouraged us as humans to stay out of ultraviolet light. Ultraviolet light has been shown to cause aging and certainly has been linked to some forms of skin cancer. But the reality is, unless you're constantly burning your skin, the chances of you developing skin cancer are very low if you properly titrate your exposure, if you follow some protocols that I talk about in some of my books and other resources. You're not at risk for skin cancer. The other thing to mention is that melanoma, which is really the deadly skin cancer that everyone fears, it's the type of skin cancer that you might see where there's like a mole that just spreads all across the body and goes deep into your body, and then the cancer cells just proliferate into your body, into other critical parts of your cells. It accounts for less than 1% of skin cancer cases. All other forms of skin cancer, you have less than 0.5% chance of them being deadly. With the right amount of sun exposure and ultraviolet light exposure, your chances of getting skin cancer are actually reduced, and you're more likely to get it from avoiding ultraviolet light than you are from getting it in the proper amounts. The other thing about ultraviolet light is when it hits the skin, UVA spectrum releases nitrates and nitrites, which help with vasodilation. They help with your blood vessels expanding. There is some interesting findings around people who live further north of the equator or south of the equator having much higher incidences of heart disease. And this correlates to the fact that there's more constriction within the blood vessels and the blood flows. There's also a slew of other diseases and health benefits from the vitamin D production, what we probably don't even fully understand yet with all the spectrum of light that we're getting from the natural exposure in the outside environment. So, dermatologists want to help us avoid getting skin cancer, but the chances are actually farly reversed when you're not burning and you carefully titrate your exposure to actually allow yourself to get regulated amounts of exposure. Your chances of the benefits that you're getting from the actual sun exposure far outweigh and help equip your body to fight off a slew of other cancers and diseases that you are much more at risk of getting than just avoiding sun all out. Another interesting thing, and I talk about this in some of my further writing and some of my books that I'm coming out with here about light and the carnivore diet, and the idea here is that red and near infrared light are super valuable, and they're parts of spectrums of the sun. You probably have seen people talk about maybe Juves or Sauna Space or some of these products that are on the market now that can generate red light and red spectrum, red and near infrared light. Well, here's the deal. Your cells have a way of generating energy called cellular respiration. The mitochondria in your cells are the powerhouses of your cells. These are essentially the key organelles within your cells that help your cells generate ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is kind of your cell fuel. And the way that they do that is through creating an electrical gradient. The crazy kind of unique but wild thing is red and near infrared light has the ability to penetrate skin beyond the dermis and go into the body up to 3 to 4 millimeters deep. And also the receptors within your skin cells and within your cells in your body can accept the energy from the photons of those certain light wavelengths, red and near infrared, and it can allow them to generate more energy. It can allow them to be more energized. We know from research in a lot of the studies out now that a lot of chronic disease, such as mental health, dementia, Alzheimer's, is directly related to a lowering of energy levels within the body and the body's cells. As you age, your DNA damages and you're less efficient, your cells become less energetic. Things like red light therapy and photobiomodulation, which play in with lasers and these red and near infrared lights, are showing people really cool study results where they're actually treating injuries in joints. They're dealing with recoveries of collagen and scars and wound healing, and it's pretty fascinating. So we talked about several things. First of all, ancestral appropriateness, alignment. We are meant to be outside. Even if you're very pale, you still need to be outdoors to some degree, and ideally you want to be getting some ultraviolet radiation every single day if you can. I talk more about stuff like this in the writing that I'm going to be kind of putting out, my book about light. And if you want to check that out or learn more about that, go to Carnivore Kurt, sign up for the newsletter. I'll let you know when that drops, and I'll be sharing more bits of that, about that and chapters about that. But there are some things you can do to really kind of hack this. The other thing to keep in mind is the value of this pro-hormone vitamin D. It's so important to your immune function, your ability to maintain bone density with your blood calcium concentration levels. It plays a huge factor in your body's your body's ability to basically trigger hormones, and it really needs to be produced through ultraviolet B radiation hitting your skin in healthy amounts. And lastly, talking about red and near infrared, and who knows what else. As we continue down this spectrum of learning all these things and learning more about the benefits of being more ancestrally aligned, we may find that there are other colors in the sun, in the wavelengths, that are even beneficial. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But we know red, near infrared, ultraviolet A, ultraviolet B, these all serve a very valuable benefit in the right amounts. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, like this video, drop me a comment, let me know how you get UVA, UVB, red, infrared. Let me know if you even know about them. If you've researched anything on your own, found more information about that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And then as always, hit that subscribe button if you're new, never been here before, and share this with someone if you think that they're a little bit afraid of light, and let's get healthy together. And let's keep crushing and learning more and getting more ancestrally aligned.